We are recording. Hello,
Okay.
Steph. How are you?
Hi, Morgan. Yeah, I'm well. How are you? Okay.
A little bit better than I was last time. Having done this once and seeing the
You've
response.
got experience.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. It was really interesting to speak to David, and equally interesting to speak to your good self. And,
Well, I hope so. I mean, I know that me and Dave are just sort of the small fry for the big players that are to come. We're the warm-up act, I think, but that's fine. We're more than happy to do it for you.
well, it's nice to have me asked to do it. I'm not a composer, as you know, so to be able to speak to some wonderful people like yourself and everybody else in the group that's volunteered to, I'm really pleased, and hopefully this will be a benefit and a blessing and help strive the boredom off. But
Yeah, no, absolutely.
as you are aware, as a lot of the other people aware in the group, there's been a whole load of questions being given to me. I'm just going to fire them at random. If it doesn't work, we don't worry about it. We just chin wag until we feel we've come to a natural conclusion. So
You are literally like Parkinson.
oh well.
You're like, you put everyone at such ease. It's very good.
I've got a list of all your published pieces from 1995 to 2017. Care of the Music Index. I'll be firing a few questions about that, mainly your brass music. So my first question is, when did you realise that composing was something you could do?
Well, hold on, we're having like a anarchy going on in the house. Let me just,
sounds good.
right, okay, that's fine. Well, my mum recalls this story quite well. And I came home from school one day. This would have been like GCSE kind of time.
Yep.
GCSE music was obviously something I chose. So she said, you came home petrified because you decided that one of the things you wanted to do to avoid as many exams as possible was lots of coursework. This was a magic word, coursework in those days, as you may well recall, as you and I are similar age. And so
18 months difference.
Is that what it is? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Coursework, anything that had the word coursework rather than exam was like yes. But one of the problems was I had to write some music, and my mum says I was petrified. Now, luckily, I got going. Dad helped me out. My dad's a arranger composer as well, and classically kind of trained, as it were, Trinity College. So I was like, Dad, you got to help me out. So I remember to this day the bar he gave me. He said, right, here's a bar. It was in 3/4 time. Off you go. And from that point, I managed to make a start, and the rest kind of followed.
So what was the first time you heard a sort of a published piece that you'd sort of done outside of your own listening pleasure for an army band? Can you remember what it was and where it was?
So a non-army piece played. A non-army piece played.
Right, an army piece, really. I mean, we're concentrating on army.
Oh, okay.
So, I know I've heard of you, but that's a different matter.
I think to answer the question as best as I would probably be as open. One of the memories I think it would fall under this category. When I would have been into the first year of me working at the music editorial department, and I remember I'd written a little arrangement of Faithful God, and it was a request that Major Colin Johnson, who sadly passed away a few years ago, made of me. I think just as a way of encouraging me. Could see I had a little mustard grain of ability as a small fry and minnow, but he did that, and I remember then writing the piece, and then it got extended a few times. And Simon Burkett, God bless him, who tragically, so sadly passed away 4 years ago. Simon was dead excited about it. Simon was still in the staff band at this point. The staff band played the piece down the previous night in rehearsal. He said, Dean, I've got something to play you. I've got something to play. Come and listen with me. And he played me this full version of Faithful God that they played. Well, I think he was as excited as I was. But that was the first time I really heard something that I'd done played to this kind of standard that I'm thinking, wow, this, and something that I hadn't really had any, if you like, not control over, but you know what I mean? Nothing I'd really influenced. It was something that had obviously been decided. It's something that was done. and I had really no idea.
Done independent of you knowing.
Yeah. Other than that, before that, I've been really fortunate to be part of the very thriving Staines core band in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the then bandmaster Tim Parker was just a fantastic encouragement to me. And he was always like, can you do this? Can you do that? And would use a lot of my early stuff. But yeah, so does that answer the question? Sorry, I think I had so much chaos going on.
No,
I couldn't quite grasp the question. Sorry.
So were you lucky enough to start as a Sibelius user or a pen and paper to jot it down? How does your composition take shape?
Did you notice the way I just put the chair forward? I think psychologists would say that's because I found that an intriguing question.
No, I didn't. I'm too entranced by listening to your wonderful experience.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good question. My dad, say classically kind of trained Trinity College, would be like, Dean, you have got to do everything by the book. You get a 2B pencil, you get your staves, you get it on an A4, manuscript, you make your notes, you do your 4-part harmony, then you make a band piece out of it, or whatever it is. And then when it came to obviously working in editorial, so I joined the day before 9/11. This is one of my little weirdnesses of life. September 10th, 2001, my first day. I hadn't really used Sibelius. I'd used a program called Finale a lot, which is what our friends in America use, more than Sibelius. But I had been told, look, this is how you're supposed to write. So now I suddenly saw this kind of free entry, as it were, into kind of like writing freely. But then Dad's words were reinforced by Ken, who David brilliantly talked about yesterday. And Ken was exactly the same with me, like, you've got to get this into short score format. So what I did is I adopted my own method, which I still use today, of compromising those two ideas, of writing a short score, but on Sibelius. So actually hearing the chord, constructing the chords vertically, maybe on 1 or 2 lines, and then maneuvering it from there to create the fuller picture from top to bottom. So I would say I've learned how to use Sibelius within a traditional sense, if that makes sense.
It's interesting you say, your dad says to start out small, because one of the sort of first pieces that carried your stamp was the one I can never pronounce properly, Glorifico.
Yeah, just call it that. Just call it Glorifico.
Which is, an epic piece full of colour, firework, and from an emerging upcoming composer who said that's the first one. That's a biggie. I mean, with David, it's very much the 2 or 3 cornet ensemble thing. You seem to just exploded like a massive fireworks display. Was that I mean, I know it's written as a tribute, I believe, and the songs are deliberate, but I mean, you've got I Surrender All, Poker Mythical, which I do remember having a discussion about, and a couple of Unity Series arrangements, but then you kind of, fire this full body. Was that intended like that, or did it just happen?
No, I mean, as I say, and David made this point very well yesterday, that actually it's really interesting, and we've all done this. You're going on what you see as published works, and that's absolutely right. And I would have done the same. And I kind of, when we talk about historical situations, I sort of remind people, if we're looking at a piece of music in a rehearsal, I say, yeah, it was published in 1971 or whatever, but it would probably have been written at least, maybe 18 months before. The truth of the matter is that I'd written a few things before that piece kind of emerged, and they hadn't been published, and still to this day haven't been published. So there was, but these were things that we were regularly using with the band at Staines. For whatever reason, it's just fine. It's how it was. So, like you say, so if you like in the public eye, it would have looked like, hold on, where's this big old thing come from? But talking about it very briefly, Glorifico was basically thematically, it was about 3 pieces all combined that I'd worked on in different stages, different times, different ways. But then the whole thing just came together incredibly. So, but that just answers you very briefly there. So no, it wasn't necessarily intentional to be that way, but it was just one of those things.
Just one of those things that sprang off the board, and you said, hang on, I've got a lot more small stuff here that's equally enjoyable and that's sitting in the cupboard waiting for people to publish.
Yeah, and over the years, it's been nice. I've found there was interest in those kind of early compositions from other people, other sources, and that's fine. And it's not, one of the questions yesterday which I liked, and I don't know if this one's lined up for me or not, but what is success? I guess in that early stage, you're trying to gain credibility, I think is probably the best way of putting it. And I think I've always been an ambitious type of person, and I think I kind of had high hopes for what I was doing and what I was trying to achieve. It's not about, it's never about me, and the more I grow older, the less that is absolutely the case. And I hope people that know me well enough would echo that. But yeah, it was all about really just writing the music and what was telling my story at that time. And I think music was a way of creating, and I didn't realize how much I liked the creative process. So yeah, it's part of who I am.
Do you have a favorite genre that you find comfortable writing? Because you've written such a wide variety of things.
Yeah,
and, nearly 30 entries on this, not including the scripture-based stuff and all that kind of thing. Just your band pieces. Would you be surprised if someone says, "Well, I like that," Days of Elijah, can we have us in the same style for our core band, please?
I don't have a particular favourite. For me, it's wherever I'm drawn to, wherever my heart is and my mind and really the Holy Spirit is kind of is leading at that point. Sometimes it's functional, especially as my previous role for the Army's Department of Editing and sub-editing. And so there were often times it would be functional writing, as it were, to try and find things that would hopefully fit into. I mean, I still submitted things like anyone else. There was no kind of preferential treatment or escape route or whatever you want to call it. I still submitted things, and they were, accepted or not. But sometimes those pieces, still being freely written and kind of handed in, as it were in with specific things in mind to help. No, I don't have a particular favourite genre. It's just whatever feels right at the time. It doesn't really bother me. I've tried to tackle pretty much everything. I think it's within my mindset, like to be creative and be ambitious and try different things. Once I've kind of
when we were playing, well, because we still do, with Andy Jacobs, if you said that we had Polka Mytica on the stand, and a lot of the bandsmen were getting questions about this music. And I remember he said he asked you, how did it come to be written? And I believe he said you'd been challenged to write in that style, which you hadn't before, and you wanted to have a bash at it.
Yeah, it was. That came about through a bit of a tale, really. A holiday with some friends, and we went to a theme park called Terra Mytica in Spain. And all the way around is different themes, different music, like you get at these kind of theme parks. And one of my friends said, if you can get that little Greek kind of thing going on into a band piece and get it published, I'll take you out for a curry. So I was like, okay, rose to the challenge. And Polka Mytica was the adopted thing. I mean, that's the thing, sometimes it is just little incidental stories, little bits of fun like that. And that was of that extreme of being, almost throwaway kind of situation, as it were. But there have been other moments. It's been far the other end as well, where it's been very much a spiritual feeling of connectivity and response. So it really is far-ranging. And say I've tried to dabble in most styles. I haven't. Funny enough, one of my favourite things I like to do, like sort of kind of rock sort of style stuff. I haven't done that all that much. I've certainly published with the Army, so that would be fun to sort of look at again. There's a
maybe
few.
so.
Days of Elijah's like a 60s rock thing, but 60s pop. But yeah.
I'm going to merge two questions in one here, so you can answer this any way you like. Your Salvation Army musical heroes, and combine that your mentors in music making, in composing. Who do you look up to as a musical hero within the Salvation Army, and who do you consider worthy of mentorship to you as a composer?
Oh man, I mean, we have a great fellowship, as you've probably seen even this last couple of days, between a lot of us. We have a lot of fun, a lot of banter, and there's a wonderful fellowship. And because of modern technology, we're able to just communicate instantly. It's wonderful, really. This is really hard. I mean, my family will tell you I'm useless at favourites, so I've written a few things down here to help me, so that because I knew some of the questions that might come up. I could name you a dozen people that I would be honoured and privileged to sit alongside, and I have had that privilege. So I've chosen as my mentor someone who I haven't had that privilege of sitting with and talking with, but funnily enough, maybe sometime in this next week or so, I'm hoping to, and that's Len Ballantyne.
Yes. I actually played under the Butlins band with Len Ballantyne.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
wow.
Yeah, back in the Norman Bearcroft days.
Wow. That would be a few years ago. Yeah. Wow. To me, Len has the whole ingredients absolutely magically knitted together. So for me, he's a craftsman. He's a spiritual man. And he's highly innovative, but not in a forced way. You can tell it's totally natural. And that to me is the greatest source of innovation, is when it comes across naturally. And to me, Len has all that in abundance. So I would choose him. I've had enormous privilege, like breathtaking privilege. And I sometimes, in that early couple of years, I never checked a payslip. I was thinking this earlier. I actually never checked them, because to me, it was like I was literally surrounded by heroes. Stephen Cobb was my boss. He still is.
Yeah.
I still get like goose pimply about even things like that. It's a bit sad, really, isn't it?
No.
But anyway, there'll be others laughing at me. But I was surrounded suddenly by people who I looked up to enormously, and I'm getting paid to do this. I'm actually getting paid to sit here and do what I love. This is awesome. So when it came to sitting down as part of my job, and I'm using that in this inverted commas, and because it was true, part of my job to sit down at the piano with Dr. Kenneth Downey, and him to look at my humble nonsense of composition, fledgling as it was at that point, and him to say, "Oh, this is very interesting. How about you try this? Bang, bang, bang," and he makes it sound like a Ken Downey piece. And you see, Ken can stretch a tenth in his left hand. I can stretch a ninth, a tenth. Though, what I mean by that is he can actually create solid harmony just in one hand, like a full harmony just in one hand at the piano, in this left hand. So when you hear that rich texture, it's just, and he'll play the piano just as, and you like, this is a Ken Downey piece, but he's just playing it at the piano. I'm here and I'm watching it, and he's trying to do it with my music, and all these things are like, it's incredible. So I was literally walking with heroes as a small fry, as I keep saying, or a little fish in a big pond. And it was,
I'm looking at the list. I mean, particularly band pieces. There's some wonderful things like "Written in Red," "Mighty God," "Somebody Prayed." I mean, these are sort of very opposite ends of the spectrum. So you're not sort of being pigeonholed and says, "Oh, Dean Jones, that's me. I will get a snappy piece." You can do, So I mean, outside of commissions for solos or whatever, if you're walking along the pathway with your family, walking the dog, you get a tune in your brain, and like Les Condon said once in an interview, when it's got to come out, it's got to come out. How do you then, you put it on paper, you've got it sorted out, do you sort of have a local band that you'd like to give it to, or is it a case of it just sits in the in tray waiting for someone to say, can we have something?
I think it it can come from different ways and result in different sources. So Dave was absolutely right. These little things, magic lanterns,
Yeah.
Peter Ellis called the Watson commentary of golf. They're brilliant, for so many things. And Dave's right. Yeah, I'll literally go into stop and get a coffee in the service station, and thankfully for the benefit of the others, still sit in the car and sing something exactly like Dave said last night to you. That is completely true. So that really helps. There have been other times where I've sat on the train and made the 5 lines and written. There's even been times where I've actually put note names that I can hear them in my head, and just written note names down on notes on the iPhone. So there are different ways of that. But in terms of the output, where it goes to, it really depends on what's in my heart. So I've now belonged to the choir at Maidenhead Citadel for just over 2 years. And so now my first kind of thinking is it's nice to offer something to the core band. One of Ken's biggest things that he taught me within a wider context of composition was write locally, write for your church. That's what Bach did. J.S. Bach wrote for his church. That's what he did. And Ken instilled that in me. Now, it's a fine line because you never want to be pushy, arrogant, and all those things at all. And when it came certainly to those early few months, a couple of years ago at Maidenhead, one of my friend's a bandmaster, Mark, and he was very good at encouraging, as he would be, me with things. But I'll be like on the choir, Mark, don't use too much, or if you like anything at the moment, because I just want to find my feet, as I don't want to be pigeonholed, or I'm a member of the band, and that's fine for me. But equally, as time's now gone on, now I'm sort of thinking, actually, this would be nice as an offering for the band, or for maybe the songsters as well. I'm not part of the songsters, but for the band, that's my first kind of thought. Other than that, it might just be that it's something completely different, and this would work. So I've written 2 pieces in the last 2 weeks, and one is a Unity series piece. So I wasn't thinking of a core band. I was literally thinking of just creatively, just something I wanted to do. But then I've written another piece before that, and that's a Triumph series piece, a Sunday morning piece, if you like, in our modern world, and that would suit our core band, I think. So yeah, we'll see. But that it doesn't have to be blocked in. It's whatever feels right.
Okay. Well, you've obviously been writing for a fair while. So over that course, what are the biggest lessons you've learned in your music writing experience?
Andrew Blythe last week on the composers seminar thing from New York used a great expression, which I've heard him use before, which is like that Salvation Army is like a university of its own in terms of music. And when it came to my role as being an editor, quite frankly, I was in awe of my own role. I as I kept saying, I'm working suddenly with people that I've played and used their music and looked up to them for years. It was quite daunting in a way. So I would say those first, I've been learning the whole way along. I still am. But I would say, I would say that the best learning for me was just learning on the job, looking at scores every single day, and trying. You're as an editor, your role is to basically you're trying to get the very best version of the manuscript that you can. Actually, as well as that, there's a little element of you that wants to kind of, if you like, beat the composer, I found this, I've done that. Okay, great. So that it was just a little way of trying to encourage us as editors to sort of keep us sharp, I think. Try and beat the composer. It was a little expression we used now and again. Nothing meant by that in any way, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it just helped the process. Quite honestly, Morven, I was receiving far more than I was giving those initial years. I was looking and learning the whole way along, and coupled that with, as I say, Ken looking at some of the stuff that I was working on. Those were just incredible privileges, and still to this day, I look back and think, wow, these were awesome moments in my life that I was able just to learn so much and soak so much. I learned more by far in comparing it with 3 years of say 2001 to 2004 music editorial than the previous 3 years of my music degree. I learned way more, and it wasn't just the nuts and bolts of looking at the music; it was also hearing it and interpretations and going along to lots of staff band practices as I did in those early days, just to get a feel for how music's being interpreted. Just learned so much, and still am.
It adds colour to your palette, doesn't it? Because you're not just pumping out. You're not being a Bramwell Coles. You're not being a George Marshall. The Dean Jones stamp is a unique one, and it's not restricted to one particular set of things. I remember there was an interview saying, you talk about originality, how, being original, you're being soaking in all other people's scores they're sent to you and hope that it's good enough for Army publication. And I think it was Bill Himes said that when you get people come in and you've got the hymn tune come in, how do you keep the sacredness of the hymn tune in that arrangement that you've been asked to do when it's almost good enough as a tune on its own? How do you approach that as a composer?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Ken spoke about this. You probably saw it last week, and him and I had a conversation about that piece and about one or two others. Hammond, In the Love of Jesus. He just figured that was just, you couldn't touch it. It was absolutely pristine. It was perfect. But of course, Ken's the master at turning, if you like, water into wine. He's he makes cod and chips. Like something else that's like a massive banquet. That is I think if you're going to take on, and a lot of us do within Army band pieces and Army songs pieces are two very separate beasts, and I've never quite figured out why. We've kind of just established this culture where Army banding is really about reinterpreting songs, and songs to music is basically 90% of it probably is just original melodies. Very interesting. Is two different distinct things. We obviously there's arrangements of songs that's published in songs as songs to music as well, but I think the balance is way outweighed with originality and melody and the songs to music. When it comes to putting a well-known tune in the band piece, you've got to stick to your guns and just hope and pray, literally pray, that what you're doing is elevating in some small way the music to a different, I wouldn't say anything better, not elevation in that way, but elevating it in a way that's going to be fresh and create something which hopefully is going to speak to people in a good way. Now, conversely, I'll let you into a little secret.
And everyone else.
When I wrote Glorifico, I reverted back in the latter half of the verse to the chord sequence I wanted to use for the Sing to the Lord's arrangement that I'd done. But when I did this different set of chords, there was a negative reaction when it was, if you like, trialed. And I sit down with a friend and colleague, and he said, look, I wonder if you could change those chords. Do you mind? I was like, no, I don't. But that's how I was trying to put my own stamp on it. Is that, and the conversation evolved, and it was a really interesting one because no one was right and no one was wrong necessarily, because both parties kind of had their reasons for it being that way. However, so when it came to writing Glorifico, I put my own chords in it. It's in the latter. It keeps descending down in the bass part. That's what I wanted to do. So I did it in the band piece, and no one's ever noticed. So they're different.
Listening to that tune tonight,
the geeks will be like, oh, like me. I'm a geek. I am. I'm learning that I'm a geek. My son's looking at me. Right, Morven. Next.
Very briefly, outside music, brass music. Not that I know much about it, but a little dabble. Outside brass music. How much have you done? Is it something?
A fair amount. Because like I said earlier, I suddenly found that there was a home for music that maybe wasn't quite mature enough for Salvation Army use, and that's absolutely fine. But maybe more of a fledgling or up and coming publisher was happy to use it. It just fitted their criteria. So I have relationships with about 4 different publishing houses, and some of that has been a case of me submitting things that are that I've had, like you said earlier, just gathered dust on file, as it were, or on a hard drive in this current climate of computing. And then it's also then been, Dean, would you try doing this for us? Would you be able to do that? Which has been really nice. So right now, one of those companies has said, look, here's an idea for you. We'd be really pleased for you to do it. So there's been one particular, if you like, I was just pleased with the publisher, really. Sort of success story, if you like. Publisher asked for a 4-section contest piece. I knew, like Dave saying yes, I knew nothing about contesting. I mean, to me, how can you mix something as soulful and as emotional as music, like as a sport? Don't get it. But it's fine. I've understood where they're coming from better as I've entered into that world a little bit more. There was a piece, basically an English Pastorale, which was a four movement piece, 4/4 section, and it got chosen. I can't for the life of me remember which year. It's probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and so that was a really nice privilege to have, and I was able to go and do rehearsals and talk about my experience, my faith, and do different things in that way, and represent hopefully myself and the army in a positive way.
What was the last time that you listened to a piece of Salvation Army music that really moved you, and what was it?
Would you believe it was yesterday?
Brilliant.
Absolutely, 100%. This is great. It really is. It's a piece by Dorothy Gates, and it's a piece called The Living God. It's on ISB's CD called Pulse from, should look at it now, 2 years ago. Dorothy is someone I've known ever since I started in editorial. We kind of just became friends quite quickly. She's a little older than me, I guess. But we just seem to sort of get on and exchange emails, exchange music, ideas, whatever. I then went to New York with some friends in 2004, and Dorothy was good enough to kind of basically host me and my friends for a few days, and that was great. So I got to know her and a little more about where she's coming from, and it was really good. Dorothy's she loves innovation. That's one of her things. She loves trying to create new sounds and be different, and there's a vast array of examples of that. But this piece, The Living God, does it is breathtaking, because it actually is truly innovative, but in a very, very natural way. So it's actually been written in dedication of the loss of her father and her bereavement. And so it's a very moving subject, obviously. But you can hear in the music straight away from the very first notes that I heard, it's a duet. I've never seen the score, so I only heard it yesterday. It sounds like it might be between, well, it's certainly two upper parts. It's either two cornets or cornet and flute, or maybe cornet and tenor horn. But anyway, they weave together in and out. And it's almost like, I've not read any notes of it. It's almost like, I think Dorothy and her father reflecting, because some notes are in harmony and some notes clash. And I wonder if that's a little story of, I have no idea, but to me, there's a story being told straight away. Mm-hmm. And she goes in and out of kind of very gritty, kind of what we call atonal harmony. So it's harmony that kind of jars, if you like, to very, very lush plain fields, pastorale kind of harmony. And she does it like effortlessly. There's no tricks, or it's just stunning. And she takes as her theme, Spirit of the Living God, fall afresh on me. And she does that thing like Les Condon does in Present Age, where she hangs on to, Mold Me, I think it is, in the chorus. And it grows, mold me, fill me. And it's brilliant. I mean, I've spoken for longer than the piece actually is. It's not a very long piece, but actually it's a stunner. Please, anyone out there, listen to it. You will be moved. It's a great piece of composition. It's a wonderful piece of spiritual music, and it tells a story, without doubt.
Would you consider that your favourite piece of army music, or is there something else that holds?
For me, I'd say my family would tell you the same. I am useless at favourites, right? And to me, you know, like a favourite could be a favourite one year, and then it might be, you know, the bronze medalist another year, and then it might be part of the, you know, the kind of cast aside, as it were, a couple of years later. I don't know, but I think because music is such an evolving thing, people are writing it all the time, and it has to. I would say right now it's the piece I'm listening to the most. I think I listened to it 3 times in a row yesterday. Literally, I just kept listening to it, and I've listened to it twice today. I think it really is very special.
To Boldly Go about a month ago, and I think to satisfy, the one piece that I absolutely adore listening to is Downey's Rejoice the Lord is King. It's such the ending of that is so powerful. It's incredible to me. And if I've got a headache, if I've come home from work and I'm really, that will go on. I mean, most people who know me will know my favourite piece of music of all time is Star Lake, because it's one of the earliest pieces of music I ever learnt in the band. But I had a very nice mentor in Ian Stewart, former officer at Woodbridge, who encouraged me to expand from the March festival arrangements and listen to a tone poem, to listen to King of Kings, Corpus Christi, The Present Age. And when I got Rejoice the Lord is King, what Downey does, brilliant. So what's the weirdest place you've ever heard of your music being used?
Oh, I thought of an answer for this when you asked this to Dave, and now I've forgotten what. Oh no, I've got it. I have got it.
Sorry about that.
We've gone a bit 0 to 60 there, Marvin. I was ready to talk about the richness of all these sort of big classic tone poems, but no, this is quite a nice little story. When I was at Staines Corps, we had a big youth fellowship, and part of that youth fellowship, particularly after band practice, was for all the kind of, if you like, I don't know what would have been under 30s, under 25s, whatever, to go and have a curry together after band practice. We did it nearly every week. I was about 12 stone when I first went to Staines, and now I'm double the man I was, if you see what I mean. Not quite. I'll tell you what, the lockdown hasn't helped as well. Anyway, so what we got to a point where we were kind of these crazy boys that were going into the curry house. Obviously, not one bit of alcohol being consumed.
Mhm.
And you could see people, and including the waiters, the owners, whatever, like going, what is with these boys? They're mad. Like, and so we got a bit of a sort of good banter going on with the people that owned it, to the point where we knew the waiter by name and all this kind of thing. But we found out that the waiter was called, he adopted an English name, Ronnie. And we found out it was Ronnie's birthday. So after youth band one night, we did a mad dash back from, where was it, Hemel Hempstead, and stood outside the curry house, lined up in band formation. I'd done a little arrangement of Happy Birthday in a swing style that's called Ronnie's Birthday Jazz. And we played it for him. He came out, he was moved to tears. And for us, it was just a hoot. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, funny enough, if you go onto any Salvation Brass open air, you'll hear it, because we use it every time. We have it with us on any open air stuff.
I've heard it, yeah.
Yeah. So that
Salvation Brass concerts, that's my problem.
So if you hear me say to the band, find Ronnie, that's what it is. It's Happy Birthday. It's called Ronnie's Birthday Jazz. It's mad.
It's
mad.
It's a very lovely thing. So, favourite Salvation Army song?
Yeah, now, because I'm useless at favourites, yeah, I had to think about this. So I came up with two. I've gone for a traditional one and a more modern one. And I can't go past I Know Thee Who Thou Art, Albert Osborne's words. Find My Name Is Written There. You know, just amazing. Visual language, which suits me, I think, visually. So that language really suits me. Ken Downey used that in a piece of music he was commissioned to write by an officer, actually, Noel Wright, who's an exec for the staff band and a good, great, lovely friend, lovely man. Yeah, amazing man. So he asked Noel asked Ken to write on that song, and it's recorded by North York Temple Band. I think he called it My Name Is Written There. I had the privilege of Ken playing it to me on the piano in one of those moments that we talked, and it was just wonderful. You know, like, oh, this is what I've done. Oh, this chord here, this chord there, and you're like, oh, you know, you kind of sat there, you know, like, you know, on the cartoon with the eyes on the sticks, like that kind of thing. It was all that. But I've always loved that song since I was little. I don't know, it just creates nothing but good memories for me. More modern, I can't again go beyond King of Kings' Majesty. It is just a beautiful, uplifting anthem. I use it as much as I can. I've used it in terms of a couple of pieces. I did the arrangement for Scripture Based with it. I just love it. And Jared Cooper seems a lovely guy. I follow him on Twitter. He's a wonderful man. And yeah, and was humbled actually when I messaged him, you know, kind of quaking in my boots, like saying, "Hi, my name's Dean, and I've used your lovely song in a couple of arrangements." He was really interested to know, and that was really nice. So yeah. I'd go for those two.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke before about your visit to Canada, and the fact that I told Andy that David Ralsall was coming to your concert, and he was desperate to meet up with you guys. And he said he was so shocked that we were using his music. It was so down to earth. It's kind of, you're using my music outside of Canada? He couldn't believe it.
Like I said to you, yeah, that he's absolutely, what I said earlier, he is true to who he is, true to his gifting, and his music reflects it. There are several writers in that same ilk who have just developed that wonderful craft of writing. You hesitate to use the word functional, and I'm not going to. I'll use something, but music which just
very good.
Well, it is, but it makes it sound like it's less important than it is. Music that can be accessible. Let's use that word. Accessible music that a core band can rehearse quite quickly, and it can be fresh and interesting and uplifting, and it doesn't use if you like, colloquialisms and kind of, you know, things you've heard a million times. it's just beautifully done and genuine. I love the genuine quality in things, and you can hear that in David's music. And he, like you say, he was a joy to me because he was amazed. It's like, well, I'm just a school music teacher, and like, yeah, but your music is helping so many people, and I really thanked him for it. And it was just, yeah, it's great.
I'll make this the penultimate question. What's the future for the Dean Jones composition collection? What's on the horizon? Any requests come in? What's the current? What's on the current scoreboard?
Well, there's the two things I've just finished, which was nice to write something that came just to me, you know, in my own time and space. This weird thing that we're all in at the moment is giving people that time for creative thinking, but it's also giving people time not just to think but to do. So you can think, you know, like, oh, I might like to do this, I might like to do it, but then there's a time factor, which is always a problem. But this has given us both the capacity to have creative ideas and also do something about them. So it's been fabulous. My family have been very patient with me, and I've written these two pieces I mentioned earlier, totally different, like chalk and cheese. One's a fun thing for Unity series, and funny enough, I mentioned about big fish and all, and small fish and big pond or whatever. I've chosen all themes on water, and I'm calling it Captain of the Seas. So it's a little play on the kind of Captain Jack Sparrow theme of stuff, you know, but with that kind of driving 12/8 thing, don't you know, and all that. But actually with some well-known tunes from an army point of view. So that's been kind of fun. But then the other piece is totally different. But it's been really nice to do different things and have that that time, as I say. But often before that, to be honest with you, I would say 99% of the output was people very kindly asking for stuff. So I have, there's a couple of things unfinished. I made a start on a flugelhorn solo for Richard Woodrow. It's a very kind request about 5 years ago, and it's still sat in with one section kind of half done. I'd love to return to that. I am in terms of, I'm looking at the name Ballantyne on my piece of paper, and it reminds me that I was lucky enough privileged to be asked to write a couple of years in a row the music for commissioning, and one of the years was to use a song that Len had written, called that, I think it was called Then the Light or something. It was about light anyway. And so I had a very instructive set of parameters nicely done, and that's always a good thing. I echo that, what David said yesterday, to how to write music before it, to introduce this theme, and it had to be this long and it had to have this, and at that point, you know, could you write something for the cadets to walk into, you know, it was all that, literally like that. But at the time I wrote it, this is probably, in fact, I think it was 2016. A few of my then colleagues said to me very kindly, the staff band members, you should turn that first bit into something else. I think it could take a bigger piece. So I've chipped away, and I can't really get it flowing yet. But I've made strides into taking that first original section before the Len song, and actually trying to make a major work from it. Who knows? Who knows? I tell you what, though, I'm listening to more army music, I would say even this last 3 or 4 days, than I have for years. I don't know what's happened. I blame you, Morvin. I think it's your fault.
Well, just radio, and you know,
Just radio. Yeah.
I'm in an office environment at the moment, and most of the offices have been furloughed, so it's absolutely dead. So I'm really grateful for headphones and a portable radio, and because I'm on my own sometimes, I can play army music. So I
was going to say, you must be on your own, because someone needs to put 10p in the meter for you, my friend. You look like you're
all the lights are on. Let's deliberately annoy some people out there. Other
Oh,
passions
golly.
in your life. Are your
Sorry, mate.
other
Go on.
passions in your life besides music?
Well, yeah, Mr. Edmonds knows one of them. Him and I rub together like this in terms of our footballing our football clubs that we support. I'm a passionate and proud Liverpool fan, and have been since 8 years old. And so that's a big thing in our household.
There might be something.
Oh man, seriously, absolutely. The soon to be asterisk title winning champions. We keep saying that because we think there's going to be a little asterisk saying crazy season that got interrupted. So apart from that, here's one that not many people know, and I thought of this earlier because I thought you might ask this one. I love cooking.
Oh, good. I'll put an order in next week then.
I love cooking. Please do. I love cooking, and actually, in this lockdown period, I've actually really enjoyed making the majority of the meals. Now, don't get me wrong. My wife loves cooking as well, but I'm basically getting in there first. So I love it, and I can't I've to the point where I'm thinking, I'm starting to think almost like a chef would at a restaurant. I'm like thinking, I'm waking up going, right, well, we've got this ingredient, so we can do this, we can do that. I don't know what's going on. I don't like baking. All I like is making stuff. I don't think I've ever made two things that are the same. But I just love the idea of just sticking a whole load of stuff together and hoping that it tastes good. Yeah, it's grating. See, it's grating.
Well, with maybe the most important one I do like, which absolutely came out of thin air last night. Favorite scripture reading.
Yeah, this is something I thought you'd ask, and I've got a memory like a flipping sieve. I can't remember a thing. So I have to. Yeah. What I would say as my overall answer to this is I totally believe there are different texts for different moments, and if we believe as we do in the Holy Spirit, then actually that's fundamentally that should be the way it is. That actually the scripture that I need today hopefully is different to the scripture that I'll need tomorrow, or certainly next month or next year. So I'm a firm believer in that. I really am a firm believer in that. So it may well surprise you to hear that I have a variety of favourites, which are different. So I love it when Peter and the soon-to-be disciples are out catching their fish, and then they meet Jesus. I love that story. I think that's a wonderful story. I love the story about when they build is it Lazarus? They put up on the roof and put him lower on the. I love that. What a laugh that must have been, right? We kind of think of Bible as being like, they were characters as well, weren't they? They were.
I can see Jones' biblical band
Seriously
describing that, almost Jericho-like.
I would love to write Jericho. I'll tell you what, if you two asked me that one, Jericho would have been in there as one of them pieces I'd have loved to have written. Bill, oh my life, I haven't spoken about Bill enough. Bill is just, man.
He's an incredible person.
He's like a one-off. He's incredible, as is Ken. In fact, the two of them go holidaying together. Can you imagine? I'd love to carry their suitcases. Do you know what I mean? Like, how much fun would you have with Ken Downey and Bill and their spouses? So much fun. Oh my goodness. Because they're great characters as well.
The reverse though, they probably just leave the things. No, we don't want to talk with fishing or reading or looking at scenery.
Fishing, absolutely. So yeah. What was I saying? Oh, we were talking about the Bible, weren't we? Right. So
the picture of the leper being brought into the house through the roof.
Yeah. So when I really kind of mould it down, I've got three that have been dear to me over a long period of time and a shorter period of time. And first one is F&R 3:17, which inspired Salvation Brass's first recording, Delight. Fantastic piece of scripture that had been introduced to me at work, actually, at editorial. And subsequently, I wrote a little melody on it, and which went into the Sing Company book. And again, Colossians 3:12-17. That was Celebration Brass's recording scripture for last year for Proclaim. And those scriptures really, well, as I looked at them and opened them up more and had Darren Shaw's insight into them. Darren's the kind of guy, my go-to guy for anything of this kind of ilk, like talking to him about the spiritual understanding of the Bible and relating it artistically to what can be done through music and creative arts. So for him and I to kind of open that can of worms together on those two pieces of scripture was enlightening, absolutely brilliant. But I would say the one other than that I always go back to right from teenage life is the first chapter of Ephesians. I love that chapter. I love that book. I love the Old Testament. I love those letters of Paul. I think Hebrews is literally the most encouraging book of the Bible. I love it. It's nothing but encouragement in Hebrews. You can't look at it without being encouraged. But even so, I go back to Ephesians because personally it just meant a lot to me at the time. I'd gone to university. I remember sitting and reading it. I remember sharing it with a non-Christian friend and him being mesmerized by this idea of God and the spiritual realm being upon us and within us and through us, and the wisdom and maturity that can be gained. Oh man. So Ephesians 1. Funny enough, I actually did start writing a piece at that time on Ephesians. I wanted to write on the first book of Ephesians. That was the idea. And that is where one of the themes for Glorifico came from. I don't think anyone in this world knows that.
Well, they do know. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's really been...
No worries.
I hope it's not the mastermind subject of the life and times and music of Ian Jones hasn't been too horrific. But,
no, it's been great. And Morven, you've done a great job with all this. And it's been, I'm so pleased for you because you've got a lot to give and you're a very eloquent man. And you've been hiding your light under a bushel, sir. And so it's brilliant that you're taking the time to do this, and that so many guys are willing to do this with you. And so me and David are warm-up acts. So long, I will be your biggest fan for the rest of the series. And bless you. Thank you.